Hello, 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 everybody. Nomad here. This is Geeking Out. Thank you for joining us. This is going to be a quick episode where I want to break down everything that was revealed by Marvel, the MCU, whole H takeover at San Diego Comic-Con this year. It's been a couple of days since it passed. I've had a bit of time to digest everything that was shared. But before we do get into that, also want to talk about the fact that Spider-Man Brand New Day is just about to come out, how excited I am to go to theaters and watch that film, everything that's happened. Like maybe you've seen my last video where I did a reaction to the Fortnite special exclusive clip that they shared where they were announcing that web shooters are coming back to the game. That's cool. But they also shared like a quick 5 to 10 minute clip from the movie, which I wasn't expecting to see. I didn't actually, I wanted to go into the movie not seeing any clips. I'd seen some of the trailers and I was like, all right, I'm cool on that. I just want to watch the movie for what it is. But things happened. We ended up seeing what we saw. It was a cool clip, and that's dope. So I'm going to watch it on Friday, which is tomorrow night actually. So yeah, today's Thursday. I'm gonna go watch it on Friday night. I want to do a review. Let me know if you're keen to see that in the comments. But yeah, we'll start off there, and then I want to talk about Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Encore, and then we'll talk about San Diego Comic-Con. So, Spider-Man Brand New Day. What do we know so far? We know that the trio of Tom Holland, Zendaya, Jacob Batalon, aka CEO of Sex, is returning for their fourth film in the franchise, which is crazy to think about. The only other MCU character to get 4 films is Thor, and Captain America Brand New Day, Brave New World doesn't really count, but there is 4 movies in that franchise. But with that being said, the main trio is coming back. We know that there's a new director at the helm, Destin Daniel Cretton. Let me just look that up real quick. Destin Daniel Cretton. Yep. So we know that Destin Daniel Cretton is coming in as the new director, replacing John Watts. He previously worked on Wonder Man, and before that he worked on Shang-Chi, which, in my opinion, both, like Shang-Chi, I'm in that company of people that are calling for a sequel to Shang-Chi. Bring Simu Liu back for a sequel to Shang-Chi. We need it. We want it. We're ready for it. It should have been done ages ago, but anyway, 2026, we're still asking for it. I know he's returning in Avengers Doomsday, which is cool, but we need a sequel to Shang-Chi. Wonder Man was also really good. I'm a huge fan of Yahya Abdul-Mateen the second or third. Not sure, but he did his thing in that, and I felt, look, I understand the criticism behind it. I understand a lot of the fandom who tuned in for Wonder Man. You're expecting MCU, you're expecting superheroes, you're expecting action, especially with Daniel. Sorry, I keep getting it confused. I'll call him DDC. No, that's probably not a good thing to call him either. Destin Daniel Cretton. I'm gonna call him Director Cretton. Okay, Director Cretton, stepping in the director's chair for Wonder Man. You probably expect some of that Shang-Chi, Jackie Chan-esque kind of action, stunt heavy, cinematography and everything like that. But instead what we got was an introspective, almost documentation of what it's like to be an aspiring actor in Hollywood. And I understand, look, if you're coming to the MCU for a certain flavor, for a certain type of thing, then I can fully understand why that might have put you off. But for me, I thought it was insightful. I thought it was super cool. I thought it was refreshing, a refreshing take. It was just a brand new perspective, especially in that first introduction to him where he's on the set of American Horror Story or whatever the show was where he was a extra. And then you get to see how his mind works. I really like the cameos. Like, as someone who grew up watching the Twilight series. I was not expecting an Ashley Greene cameo at the beginning. Don't hate on me for watching the Twilight series, all right? Because look, I grew up, I watched it. It is what it is. I don't think it was that bad. And obviously, Robert Pattinson's going on to have a crazy career. Yeah, look. So I say that to say, crazy cameos, but also the fact how Yahya was able to play it, and just that dialogue at the beginning where he's talking about what if I approach the scene this way and I do this and I do that. So you get an actor who's very passionate about the craft. And then you can see by how they covered it, the dialogue choices from everyone else, the supporting actors, how they kind of how they view him. I feel like that was a very real and raw approach to it, and then the fact that he gets fired afterwards as well. My criticism of it has to do with I guess a lot of people feel the same way. The lack thereof of superpowers, right? Because we don't actually see him use his superpowers for a couple of episodes, I believe. But in my opinion, once I grasped the concept of what they're trying to achieve with this show, that they're trying to do a case study, a character study, they're approaching a certain thing. There's a certain plot that they're trying to follow. I was on board for the whole thing. I was like, okay, I get what you're trying to do. I accept it for what it is. I'm going to enjoy this. And that's exactly what I did. I like how they kind of redeemed Trevor Slattery a little bit. I think that's always going to be the benefit of having a series with multiple episodes, hour-long episodes, almost hour. Is the fact that you get to flesh these characters out a little bit more. So that's always really cool. I didn't expect for this to be a whole Wonder Man deep dive, but the main thing I'm trying to get at in talking about Wonder Man is that Destin, Director Cretton, he does a dope job at telling these stories. He's approaching it from a very fresh, refreshing lens. And I like what he's bringing from Shang-Chi to Spider-Man specifically, and that's, practical stunt work, and stunt work that actually has an identity and pays homage to, the classic kung fu blockbusters of Jackie Chan and everything like that. So we know for a fact that John Watts was very opposed to, not very opposed, he just did not bother with doing any practical web slinging or anything like that. He said they tried it out in the Homecoming trilogy, but they couldn't get it to a place where it worked, so they abandoned it and they focused mainly on CGI, which is fine. It's a different bag, it's a different set of moves that he wasn't equipped with. But Destin and his team, by all accounts, have given it their best shot. From the trailers we've seen so far, from the clip that we saw from the Fortnite reveal, it looks mad. How they're focusing on a lot more realistic falling and swinging between buildings, like we actually get in the valleys of these skyscrapers, these buildings in New York City. It feels like we're in and amongst the actual, high rises and everything like that. Whereas typically, we've for whatever reason, Far From Home, we got Spidey out of New York City. We took him to Europe and we had him flying around there. Avengers, Infinity War, we had him flying around the park for a little bit, but then he was out in space with Tony and everyone. Civil War, we had him swinging around the airport. What else? No Way Home, he was back in New York, but he was mainly flying above all the buildings and stuff like that. We didn't see him down, swinging down into the valleys, grazing the streets and things like that. To me, someone who watched all the previous Spider-Man films, that clip that we saw from the Fortnite reveal, really reminded me of what they were trying to achieve with Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. So if you go back to The Amazing Spider-Man, 2 specifically, that opening shot where he's falling and it fades in from the black and you see the logo on the back of his suit and there's actual ripples in the suit. That's I loved shit like that. I loved seeing things like that. Even in the first one, when you kind of get a POV, him doing all this cool like parkour, and then you actually see the web shooters on the wrist from his perspective and things like that. He lands on the skyscraper, and you can see the reflection from the building. Things like that. That's always gonna feel a little bit cooler to me than just anything CGI. Like it just little attention to detail like that. What else do we know about this film? I know that there's an actor that I really like from Severance, who has been cast in this film. And his name is Tremel Tillman. He plays Milchick in Severance, which was phenomenal performance, by the way. I hope season 3 comes out sometime soon. But I know that he is about to appear in Spider-Man Brand New Day. I'm not sure who he is. Let me just quickly look this up. Yeah, there's a couple of castings in this. Oh, sorry, before I go on to him, John Bernthal, obviously, Frank Castle. We just seen him in his 40-minute special on Disney Plus, Punisher, One Last Kill, which, honestly, I probably wouldn't go back and watch it again. I watched it for a bit of nostalgia. Like I loved the Punisher series on Netflix. I loved him in the season 2 backdoor pilot of Daredevil season 2. And then of course he just came back in Born Again season 1, right? Now, I think he was made for the role of Frank Castle. I'm not 100% sure how I feel about One Last Kill. Cool. It was a lot of violence, a lot of gore. Not gore, but yeah, a lot of violence, a lot of action, killing. It was a psychotic breakdown study of this man who's gone through so much trauma in his life, so much loss, so much grief, so much like violence and everything like that. It was violence and it was punching and there was violence and there was fighting and there was shooting and there was violence and there was blood and there was violence. You know what I mean? Like there's a whole lot of violence in that. It was cool. I understand what they were doing with it. Probably wouldn't watch it again. Now, to go from that as our last point of view perspective of this character to now going to Spider-Man Brand New Day. I don't know how it's gonna look. So far, I enjoy it. I feel like the when he gets kicked out of the armored tank and he says and then he gets webbed up in the face. He can't finish saying motherfucker, right? I get that. I get why they're doing it. Obviously, Spider-Man's a PG property. There's going to be a lot of kids in the theater. But yeah, they've clearly made an intentional decision to have these characters mix. I wonder how they're going to balance it, right? John Bernthal has said in interviews that he's confident that they found a balance, they found a tonality that works, that gels and that will allow him to interact with other characters of the MCU. And when he says that, there's obviously I'm thinking, okay, like maybe he interacts with the Avengers, Captain America, this and that. So we'll see where that goes. But I am excited to see him finally be in an MCU film. John Bernthal, just overall, I think he's a great guy. He's an actor that I'm constantly looking out for his work, and yeah, I hope it does well. Is what I'm trying to say. Next up. That I want to talk about, Sadie Sink. Her character has been under wraps. I did have it spoiled for me by someone at the premiere, someone who's not even in the game. Hopefully you guys haven't had it spoiled for you. I'm not going to spoil it for you on this channel, but Sadie Sink, character that's highly secretive, and I'm hoping that the spoiler that I heard was wrong. There's a high chance that it's not, given the credentials of this person. But look, if you can avoid the spoilers, avoid it at all costs. I really love how Sadie's been able to handle, the press junket and everything like that without revealing any details of the character. Just doing a really good job of keeping a tight lip about it. When it does come out, I'm expecting a great performance. I loved her in Stranger Things. My kids love her in Stranger Things. We all love Max in this house. Yeah, I'm just really excited to see how she enters the MCU, and especially how she interacts with like the dynamic trio of Jacob, Zendaya, and Tom. Right. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. I think the next character that I'm most looking forward to entering the MCU, and I can't believe that they've cast this guy. It's perfect casting. I know this was announced a while ago, but Tombstone. Lonnie Lincoln, Tombstone, is a character that I put up there with Kingpin, with Wilson Fisk. He's someone from the comics that I've always loved, and as someone who's played the PS4 game, PS4 Spider-Man, and loved that iteration of Tombstone where he's kind of like, he's got a biker gang and things like that. He's huge, he's menacing. There's that iteration of the character, but then the other iteration that I love of this character is from Spectacular Spider-Man, which used to air on Nickelodeon in Australia. That is some of the best Spider-Man storytelling, and it's crazy because I've watched it again in my 20s and really noticed now the pacing of it and how they were able to cram so much rich storytelling into such a short time frame, because those episodes are under 30 minutes or pushing 30 minutes at the most, which these days, that's kind of like, it's not that much time to like tell a compelling story, and yet they somehow were able to do it on Spectacular Spider-Man. But that character of Tombstone, I believe why they went with Tombstone as being this Kingpin sort of hybrid in that show was because there's some complicated TV rights with Kingpin, because he's a Spider-Man character, but he's also a Daredevil character, and those two characters had their IPs sold to different studios and things like that. It's a whole mess. But the benefit, one of the gifts of that whole debacle was the fact that they were able to tell a compelling story through Tombstone in that show. So those are two iterations of the character that I really hope they drew inspiration from, and that Crondon, is that really his name? Crondon? No. Crondon, bro. Okay. So there's this actor, Marvin Jones III is apparently his real name. But he goes by Crondon. He's an American rapper and actor. I didn't know that about him. I didn't know that he was a rapper and an actor, but I did know. What am I saying? I didn't know that he was a rapper. I knew he was an actor, and I first seen him in Black Lightning. I feel like a lot of us were introduced to him. Black Lightning was a decent show for a point in time. It was a little bit corny here and there, but for the most part, Marvin Jones III, man, he said some outlandish, out of pocket shit in that show, man. It was crazy. I really enjoyed his performance. I felt like he committed to the bit, and hearing that he was cast as Tombstone, I was like, bro, this is like, you can't make, like, God himself couldn't have casted the role any better than that. Like, it just makes complete sense aesthetically. Vocally, like, bro, if you've heard his voice, you know that he's got a very unique, like, he's got this low register sort of cadence, and he can be sinister, he can be comedic, he's very versatile. So I'm really, really excited to see him pull off Lonnie Lincoln in the show. It'll be interesting to see what they do differently, because obviously if you guys have seen Spider-Man, or Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, the animated series on Disney Plus that they recently put out, you know that Lonnie Lincoln was one of the premier supporting characters, or if not, one of the lead characters in that show. And they were doing something completely different. He was growing up. He was a senior at the same high school as Peter. What else? He was on the football team. His family was struggling, got involved with gang stuff, all kinds of stuff. So it was a very unique take. I wasn't the biggest fan of that show overall. I didn't really like the animation style, the art direction. I felt like part of the gang stuff with Lonnie was really really corny. Even for an animated show, like I know it's an animated show, but this same studio has also produced X-Men 97, which was able to tackle some heavy themes and approach some plot lines that were a little bit more mature and still make it like family friendly for everybody, except for that one episode on Genosha that was really tough to watch. But yeah, Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. We'll see how season 2 goes, but me personally, it's not great. But I'm gonna watch the MCU everything anyway. So, anyway, Condon, Marvin Jones III, Tombstone. Very excited to see that. Who else is in the show? This movie, Scorpion, played by Michael Mando, returning from Homecoming. Finally, it's been damn near 10 years since Homecoming. But he's returning as Scorpion, and that is so cool. Like, I hope that they're not just setting him up to be kind of like Crossbones was in Captain America, where, you know, they're just bringing him back to kill him off in the next film. Obviously, Spider-Man doesn't kill, but like Scorpion is a character that I feel has been done dirty by a lot of media over the years. Like, obviously Matt Gargan, the character of Matt Gargan, he's a bit of a doofus. He's a bit of a douchebag, who gets these powers, and he's like, you know, driven crazy. He's a little bit psychotic, and he can't get out of the suit apparently. But I feel like you can do a lot more with that. And an actor of Michael Mando's caliber, you know, like we've seen obviously how he was in Breaking Bad, in Far Cry, even just for that little piece of us. Yeah, I just think he's an incredible actor, and I hope that they keep him around for more than just this film. Maybe they bring him back as a recurring role for this trilogy that they're setting up. I've seen some great videos. I'm drawing blank. I think Nando. There's a YouTube channel, Nando something, and he's done some creative, like his own scripts for what the next Spider-Man trilogy should be with Tom Holland. And, you know, in that he goes into detail about different characters, which villains will have a consistent arc throughout all 3 of the films, who will be the main villain for each of the films. It sets up like the introduction of Miles Morales in Tom Holland's Spider-Man universe. It just does a bunch of shit. It explores the symbiote, Venom and everything. Yeah, it just does a whole lot of good. I recommend anyone check it out. But it just got me thinking about the character of Scorpion specifically, because he really talked about bringing back Michael Mando, having him carry a specific arc throughout all 3. And I'd really love to see that now that I've heard that. But anyway, that's happening. And I almost forgot that the Incredible Hulk is making an appearance in this movie. And anyone that knows me knows that my relationship with the Incredible Hulk in the MCU, specifically Mark Ruffalo's take of Hulk, has been very, very love-hate. I love Mark Ruffalo as a person, as an actor. I think he's great. And I've seen so much of his work, it's not even funny. I know that this dude can act his ass off, that given the right material, he puts 110% into everything that he's given. The problem is what he's been given, right? Obviously, Avengers, the first Avengers, he was picking up the mantle from Edward Norton, who had a very specific kind of approach to the character. By all means, that Mark Ruffalo's first foray into the MCU was a hit. You know, I feel like he played the timid scientist, trying not to step on anyone's toes, trying not to get angry or let his emotions control him. He'd done that so well. Then Avengers Age of Ultron, there was a little bit more depth to it. I do think we could have done without the Natasha romance plot line. It wasn't necessary, but they ran with it afterwards. But if they hadn't done it, it still would have been fine, I think. I feel like his dynamic with Tony there, becoming the Science Bros, was really, really interesting. But then his dynamic with Scarlet Witch after she'd drove him crazy, drove him to destroy South Africa, that resentment that he feels towards the Hulk, that guilt that he feels towards all those people that passed away at that point, was really, really interesting. Something that I hope I'd hoped they'd continue to build upon. But then they sent him to outer space. And then we didn't see him for a couple of years until 2017, Thor Ragnarok drops. And we get not smart Hulk, but self-aware Hulk. We get self-aware Hulk, and he's funny, he's comedic, he's got comedic timing. He's a bit of a big baby, big child goofball who can also beat the shit out of you, beat the shit out of a Asgardian god. So it was fresh. It was a new take, but then, he reverts back into Bruce, and those timid qualities aren't quite there anymore. He's cracking jokes as well. He's talking with Thor, and then Infinity War and Endgame ultimately just really, really disappointed the hell out of me. For as good as those films are, those single-handedly decimated the Hulk. Smart Hulk was executed so poorly. They just made him crack jokes again. Like, I always think about that film and how they could have changed Hulk's story arc just a little, just slightly, just to make it a little bit better. The humor and stuff wouldn't have been so unbearable and detrimental to his character if they would have at least included some more beatdowns from the Hulk, some more untapped rage. Like in that last fight against the Chitauri and Thanos and his army, the Black Order and everything like that, if you would have just had Hulk or Bruce, Smart Hulk, as a duo, decide internally to let everything go and just go rage monster on everybody, just start beating the fuck out of everybody, doing some of that like left right shit that they were doing to Loki in the first Avengers. That kind of stuff would have done so much to redeem his character, especially after you put him on the sidelines in Infinity War, and then you move forward. You go into Endgame, and he's eating pancakes at fucking IHOP and taking selfies with kids and shit like that. Like that's okay. That's cool, but you got to give us something in the end. Like obviously Thanos beat the hell out of him, and that was a great moment for Thanos. Like you set the tone early with Thanos. I understand the sacrifice that Hulk needed to make there. But everything that you did in Endgame, just you doubled down in the wrong direction, and I hate it, right? And then not only that, but you put out Captain America Brave New World and treat it essentially like a sequel to The Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton, who is no longer in the MCU, and you recast Thaddeus Ross with Harrison Ford, who does a completely different characterization of the character, and it all just feels so disconjointed. It's called Brave New World. Nothing feels brave about it. Like I wanted to love Brave New World because I love Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but the way that you the story you chose to do, then you put in Red Hulk. You insert Red Hulk into this film. You have him go up against super soldier serumless Captain America, and he's talked down. I understand Sam Wilson used to be a counselor for war veterans. I understand that. I see the through line there. I just don't agree with it. I didn't want to see that with Red Hulk. Thanks, son. Sorry, my kid just came in the garage. Yeah, so anyway, I was talking about Red Hulk. The other thing about that film too is that Red Hulk did so much damage. He did so much work, and went to town. He destroyed the Washington He destroyed the White House and all of this stuff, and that was cool. There is a part of me, however, that's like, man, where's Bruce? Where's the real Hulk, right? And now we know from these trailers and everything that Bruce Banner has some kind of like temper thing on his forearm. He's able to manage the Hulk a little bit better. He's a professor at college. I think ESU or something like that. And that's cool. But I just hope that, you know, the Incredible Hulk has only won one one-on-one fight in the entire MCU. And that was when he went up against the Abomination. Other than that, he's taken L's every single time. Actually, now that I've said that out loud, I don't think that's accurate because he was part of the Battle for New York. And they didn't lose that. I know he got his ass beat by Hulkbuster. They beat Ultron. Got his ass beat by Thanos. Sure. Oh, I said one-on-one. Even in that first film, I think he got some more. Bro, my throat is acting up right now. I don't know why. Anyway, I'm going to move on from the Hulk, but basically, it's a Spider-Man film. He's going to fight the Hulk. This is a fight that people have been wanting for ages because it happens in the comics. And in the comics, you know, Spider-Man punches the shit out of the Hulk and sends him into orbit, right? If they do that in this film, it's going to be cool for Spider-Man, but it's going to be another L for the Hulk. I'm not looking forward to that. I don't want the Hulk to take another L. You know what? I just realized this video is probably going to be more than... It's probably just going to be all Spider-Man Brand New Day. Because I started talking about someone before, Tremel Tillman, who was from Severance. And I think he's a great actor. And I just had a look at the cast, and there's actually a huge stacked cast for this movie. So I'm not 100% sure I'm going to get to the rest of what I want to talk about because we're already 30 minutes in. Anyway, Tremel Tillman, he's playing someone named William Metzger, who I haven't actually heard of, but I have heard. I've recently been told that he has something to do in the X-Men comics. So we'll see how it goes there. But I just know that this guy brings his A game to every performance that he ever does, and so I'm really looking forward to that. I've heard Keith David's voice in the trailers, so that's cool. Apparently Rosario Dawson is going to appear in this film, and if you don't know, she played Claire Temple, aka Night Nurse, in the original Netflix Daredevil series. So that'll be cool to revisit that, see her again. I think it's long overdue, and anything Rosario Dawson does is fucking dope. Liza Colon Zayas, who is a phenomenal actress who starred in The Bear, which is also a good show on Disney Plus. Go and check that out. But no one knows what her character is either. I believe she could potentially be playing a young Miles Morales' mother, Rio, given her, you know, Afro Latina Latinx ethnicity. So it remains to be seen if that is the case, if we are laying the groundwork, the foundation to introduce Miles Morales to the MCU. I can't wait. Sabrina Guevara, who played Sheila Rivera in Daredevil Born Again, is returning in this film. I've seen her in the trailer. She's playing the mayor, and obviously if you watched Daredevil Born Again season 2, you know that she kind of steps in at the end as the interim mayor of New York. Sorry if I'm spoiling anything, but it's been months now. You should have watched it already. But yeah, after Fisk leaves the city, right? So we'll see what goes on there. Yeah, overall, I'm really looking forward to this film. I stepped away from No Way Home feeling like, you know, what a great moment that was. What a spectacle that was a blockbuster. Got everybody back into theaters. It got everybody excited about Spider-Man again. It reconnected. It offered somewhat some closure, especially for the Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2 fans, the Andrew Garfield fans. We did get a little bit of closure from that. We got a lot of closure from Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. There were a lot of things in that film that I wish they wouldn't have cut. I wish they would have spent a little bit more time on. I wish they would have shown us, not told us, which has been an ongoing issue with the MCU for quite some time now. They do a lot of telling us that this happened, but they don't show us that this happened. And, you know, I hope they start to address that with future films in the MCU. But yeah, No Way Home, I was really a huge fan of that when it first came out. Over time, I've started to realize that it wasn't as great as I'd hoped it was. Don't get me wrong, it was still a great film, but there was so much room for improvement. There was so much they could have done differently. And, you know, the whole point of this, from what we've been hearing, is that they're going to approach this from a more street level, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man sort of lens, and put less attention on the big multiverse, out of this world, supernatural, magic sort of realm, and just focus on more like, you know, New York City streets level Spider-Man. So I'm really excited to hear that. I really do feel like they're going to reveal Daredevil in this film. You know, why other reason would Spider-Man be going up against the Hand in a prison where we know that Matt Murdock is at the moment? He's in a prison and he has beef with the Hand. It just, you know, you've seen shots in the trailer. If he is in this film, it's gonna be epic. I hope we see a suited up Daredevil teaming up with Spider-Man for once, and finally. Cool. So that's how I'm feeling about Spider-Man Brand New Day. I'm gonna see it on Friday. I'll do a review of it afterwards, but I'm really excited for it. After that, Avengers Doomsday. We just got a trailer for that. It looks sick. We've heard Doom's voice. We've heard how RDJ is going to approach it. I feel like it makes a lot more sense now. I have a theory about Avengers Doomsday, which I feel might be getting some traction from other people as well. And it's the fact that I don't feel like, you know, everyone's been putting these theories out there that have to do with Doom looking like Tony Stark, this and that. I don't think we need to be putting any pressure on that. Like, you know, oh, they're going to see Tony's face and they're going to be like, oh, what the hell? You know, like, you know, Thor and Steve are going to have an existential crisis because he looks like Tony and things like that. I don't think that they're bothering to talk about the resemblance at all. You know, I think they're going to keep Doom's helmet on. I think that if they do take Doom's helmet off, that is going to be like disfigured and look like a completely different person. I don't know. That's something for me. I do know that from leaks from San Diego Comic-Con, which, you know, spoiler alert again, if they do, I know that this Doom is connected to Pedro Pascal's Reed Richards, like that Fantastic Four family that we saw in First Steps. He's from that universe. He's their Victor Von Doom. It's connected to that, and now he's coming to the main MCU timeline and everything like that. So that's super interesting to have confirmed. It'll be so cool to see how they interact with the original X-Men, the OG X-Men. Like I wasn't expecting to get emotional over seeing Rebecca Romijn return as Mystique, but I was. You know, like I was just a little kid when that first X-Men film came out. You know, and it was I don't want to say an awakening for me, but like, you know, seeing an all blue body like that, all flexible and stuff, like moving around and stuff like that as Mystique, like it was different, and it was a different flair. It was it's super interesting to see her as Mystique, as this different with a different aesthetic, an older Ian McKellen and Charles and Patrick Stewart. Sir Ian and Sir Patrick returning as Magneto and Charles Xavier. And then James Marsden now donning the blue spandex and the yellow visor and everything like that, bro. It's so peak, man. Like to use that phrase that's become overused, it's so peak. Like I just can't wait to see it. And then let's talk about San Diego Comic-Con as well, because they did that massive reveal. Obviously, like you've got the new Avengers in Florence Pugh, Hannah John Kamen, Sentry, Lewis Pullman, who else? Bucky Barnes, all these guys. David something, he plays Red Russian. Yeah, you've got these new players. You've got the Fantastic Four coming in, Doom. You've got the classic X-Men. You've got the OG Avengers returning with Chris Evans, and Thor and everything like that. You got Shang-Chi going up against Gambit, for God's sake. Like, bro, this shit, it's already so massive. Like, if it's bad, I'm gonna be shocked. Like, but I wouldn't bet my money. I'm not a betting man. But if I would have bet my money that this was gonna be a fucking incredible movie, I'd put it all in. Pause. Yeah, but anyway, Avengers Doomsday is shaping up to be a solid movie. There's definitely a part of me that, you know, feels like, man, what would this film have been if Jonathan Majors didn't get into that legal trouble with his ex? Like, because honestly, I loved his performance. I loved what we got, you know, the little teaser that we got. I felt like, bro, just think about that. I felt like that little piece of Kang that we got in Loki season 1 and season 2 was so phenomenal, so great, and it was only a tiny bit. The idea of it, the whole, you know, if you kill me, you set off a multiversal war. You have no idea of the horrors that you're going to reveal. But also, like, his acting choices, where he stops and starts, he pauses, his cadence, he shouts a bit there, brings it down low here, slows his speed down, speeds it up. You know, it's such a great, like, unique performance of a character that, like, we're just being revealed to the first time. And then you get the version of Kang that we got in Quantumania, and it just feels weird, man. It just, like, you know, he was trying something, but I feel like they just really dropped the ball on the script, on the edits, the decision making. Like, there is no reason why Michael Douglas's Hank Pym should have survived that film. We spent the first 2 films reckoning with the demons of his past and Paul Rudd's character having to, you know, clean up his mess because he's a grumpy old man. And then, you know, obviously he's tied to Ghost's creation in Ant-Man and the Wasp. Like, it would have made a ton of sense for him to be killed off by Kang, or for him to sacrifice himself to prevent Kang from escaping the quantum realm, and then for him to come back. But anyway, the point I went down this path to talk about Jonathan Majors. I think Jonathan Majors is a phenomenal actor. I've seen a lot of stuff about him as a person, as a you know, off screen, that a little bit questionable. Ultimately, I'm pretty sure he's settled out of court on that. I'm pretty sure, like, from the footage that I've seen of that whole interaction, I don't think he did it. I think he was being pressured by this woman. I'm not even going to go into that. I don't think he did it. I think he should still be around as Kang. I hope they revisit that someday. But, man, what a completely different film that would have been if we didn't get Doom, you know? Yeah, I just think that that's so interesting. If we could do like an episode of What If someday, which I know they're not doing anymore, but yeah. Sorry, guys. This is not. Anyway, Avengers Doomsday comes out in December, but they announced something else that really, man. Let's just go ahead and say it. Ryan Gosling is in the MCU, and he is playing Ghost Rider. That is crazy to me. Ghost Rider is a character that I've fucked with for like since I was a kid. You're gonna hear that a lot from me. But I grew up watching the Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider movie and like really loving it. Apparently, like my nan was an extra on the set of that film because I think they filmed here in Australia for a couple of days or something. But yeah, that's the story that I heard. I never saw her in the film, but you know, apparently she was an extra on that film. But yeah, I always thought the transformation in that was cool. I wasn't aware at the time of like people's perception of Nicolas Cage, how he's like over the top and things like that. But for the most part, like it was a good movie. Like it was cool. Like it was different. It was a little bit darker than like, you know, the Raimi trilogy, a little bit more campy. I guess you could say, but you know, the VFX, him turning into Ghost Rider, and then you know the lore that they laid down that you know Johnny Blaze is the new Ghost Rider, but you've also got Carter Slade, I think it was, played by oh man, he was just in my mind, Sam Elliott. You couldn't cast Ghost Rider better than that. Like being the and then the fact that he's got like a horse that turns into the skeleton horse, bro, that was so dope. The crazy connection between that film and the new film, Eva Mendes played the love interest to Nicolas Cage's Johnny Blaze, and now in real life she's married to Ryan Gosling, who is playing the new Johnny Blaze. Did I say Johnny Cage before? Saying MK2 discussion. Yeah, so just a little fun fact there. I hope Eva Mendes like does a cameo in this somehow. But yeah, it was super cool to see that happen. I think Ryan Gosling has been lobbying to be Ghost Rider for a very long time now, for a few years. I don't think it's been like Channing Tatum long, but yeah, he's definitely been lobbying for it. And the fact they just casually announce it, especially hearing Kevin Feige talk about Starfighter, because I know that he's like a huge fan of Star Wars as well, and that he wants to produce a Star Wars film at some point. But yeah, just hearing him talk about it, I just think it's so cool, man. Like, I'm really excited for that film. Shawn Levy's coming back to direct it as well. You know, people have their feelings about Shawn Levy and the films that he makes, but I think he's going to do a good job. I'm looking forward to Starfighter as well, and this film coming up. And I hope they finally kick off the Midnight Suns sort of direction of things. You know, now that it seems Kevin Feige's confirmed that the Blade movie with Mahershala Ali isn't going to happen. That's so dumb, man. But I feel like Marvel is finally out of that era, like that fresh Disney Plus announcement era where they were just, you know, talking about shit that they were going to do and then never doing it. You know, they did the same thing with Lucasfilm as well, announcing all this Star Wars shit that they were going to do and they never did it. Yeah, I hope we're past that point and that we're focusing on actually executing and doing what we say we're going to do. Yeah, I hope that's where we're at now. The other thing that they announced at Comic-Con, Ryan Coogler is coming back to direct Black Panther 3, which is great. Ryan Coogler, like, you know, if you guys have been living under a rock, he just like had one of the most successful original IP drops in cinema history, especially in the modern era with Sinners. Like, he puts Sinners out, brand new story, brand new IP, breaks all these records, films it all in celluloid film, which, you know, I'm not that much of a film buff that I understand exactly what that means, but I know that's a big deal. He shot it the way that he wanted to shoot the original Black Panther, but Marvel pushed back on that. Disney pushed back on that because they had a very specific, streamlined way of doing things, which is fair enough. But he filmed the movie how he wanted to film. And then on the business end, he did all this negotiating to put himself in a position of power. It was very George Lucas of him. The way that he negotiated it, like he gets a certain amount of, he gets a certain percentage on the back end of like the total gross and things like that. He's rolling in the money right now because of Sinners, because of all the billions of dollars that it made, which is, you know, epic. But yeah, he goes off, he does that thing, makes this film for Warner Brothers, comes back to Disney. negotiates the fuck out of it, and now he's making Black Panther 3 in he's shooting in celluloid, formatted for a large screen or whatever. Again, I don't really understand the technical jargon. All I know is that he's sitting in a position of power very unique to the other directors in the MCU at the moment, and he's doing shit the way that he wants to do it, and it's great to see, especially for a person of color, right? So Black Panther 3 is happening. M'Baku's coming back. Winston Duke's coming back as M'Baku. Letitia Wright's coming back as Shuri, who's currently wearing the Black Panther mantle. But then the biggest announcement of the day that we got from San Diego Comic-Con, they have cast a brand new Black Panther. It will be a grown-up version of Toussaint, the son of T'Challa, aka T'Challa Jr., and it'll be played by David Johnson, who, you know, that short clip alone of him walking out, shaking hands with everybody, and then talking to the cast, saying that words can't express how he feels, that he feels honored. He doesn't want to say too much. He said that the pleasure is all mine, and the way he delivered that was with so much regality, so much sincerity. Like, it just made a huge impression on me, and I was like, all right, look, I'm gonna give this guy the benefit of the doubt. It remains to be seen whether his performance is good or not. I haven't seen anything he's in. I've heard that he's in a film called The Long Walk. He was in Alien Romulus. He's done a bunch of stuff. He's got an extensive body of work. I then saw him delivering a acceptance speech for an award that he received for being an actor, which is cool. Like, obviously he's got some prestige there. But again, it's that speech at Comic-Con, the speech when he's accepting the award, that give me the impression of, okay, this is someone who can hold his head high and carry a sort of royal aura to him. Which, you know, when it comes to the example that Chadwick Boseman set as T'Challa, that's exactly what always stood out to me about him. And I know it stood out to Kevin Feige and the Marvel team about him when they cast him for Civil War, right? This is someone who, you know, Chadwick Boseman, the first film that I saw from him was 42, where he played Jackie Robinson, the first African-American to play in Major League Baseball. And that was such an incredible film. But from that, like, his presence on the screen, his ability to immerse himself in a role and carry himself, it was something else. Like, you knew you were seeing a transcendent actor whose purpose was bigger than himself, right? And then you see him follow that up with Get Up, the James Brown story, and he plays James Brown, and, you know, he's doing this dancing, he's doing the singing, he's doing everything. He's, you know, he has so many examples. And then Ma Rainey's Black Bottom after Black Panther, obviously Black Panther, and then he steps into the role. He makes it his own. He makes these creative decisions to give them an accent to speak in Xhosa or however you pronounce it. My apologies. I don't mean any disrespect. To speak in their language and bring culture to the forefront instead of this superhero franchise. You know, that's the kind of voice that you need to have, and that kind of presence and confidence that you need to portray a character like this. So I understand people saying that, like, the character of T'Challa is too important to let it die with this one person, but I wholeheartedly disagree. Chadwick Boseman was such a special figure. To just recast it and just bring in someone new is not an easy task, and it wouldn't have gone over well if they just decided to do that. Okay, Chadwick Boseman's passed away, we're just going to bring in the next black man that we can to play the same character and hope for the best. you know, people would have criticized it. They were going to compare everything like that. I think what Ryan Coogler was able to do with Wakanda Forever, and, you know, have Shuri step into the mantle and have it be a film about grief to hold us through the grief that we were feeling as fans of Chadwick Boseman as well, and carry us through that and us feel those emotions as well. Especially after the bombs that the MCU was putting out at that point. Let's be real. Like, you know, it was I remember my brother texting me immediately after he watched it and saying, yeah, no, this film saved the MCU. And I really felt that as well. Like, you know, it did so much, and it gave Letitia Wright a chance to shine as well, and to also explore that grief in real time, which I felt was really special. But then to set up the next generation of T'Challa. So now, in real, like, it parallels David Johnson's real life experience now, where he's stepping into the mantle of someone who's cast a big shadow. You know, he's in character. It's T'Challa and T'Challa Jr. And T'Challa Jr. is obviously going to be, you know, trying to live up to the hype of his dad. But then in real life, you know, we've got David Johnson who's stepping into this important character, important role, and taking on the mantle from someone who, you know, who set the bar, who set the standard in Chadwick Boseman. So those parallels, I can only assume that they're going to feed into the performance that we end up getting from this guy. So look, I'm hoping for the best. I have high expectations for that movie, but I also feel super confident in Ryan Coogler, his track record, his vision, his ability to, you know, tell really great stories. And, you know, I feel like all of that as just makes him the perfect curator to cast this guy, David Johnson. So look, I think it's going to be all good. I really do. I think it's going to be all good. I can't wait to see what they do, how they get there from Avengers Doomsday with everything that we know. Especially with the age gap, like how are they gonna, like last time we saw Toussaint, he was, you know, under 10 years old or something, or just 10 years old. I don't know. But yeah, it'll be super interesting to see how it goes. Yeah. Anyway, I might have missed some stuff, but it's already been an hour. I got to get going, pick up my kids. But let me know what you guys think about all those announcements, everything you feel to. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff. I'm everywhere. Typical YouTuber stuff. But yeah, my name is Nomad. I appreciate you for geeking out with me. I'll see you in the next one. Let's go.